Welcome to Protecting Pulaski County. Protecting Pulaski County is a limited series podcast. It's brought to you considering you, all of the issues valid to you and your community. Joining us today, of course, is our very special guest, and he's the centerpiece for it all. Sheriff Higgins, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, what's your first name for those of us who are,
Yeah, it's Eric.
Eric.
Right.
Sheriff Higgins, how long you been in law enforcement? Give me that little background.
Been in law enforcement about 35 years. Mm-hmm. I started at the Pulaski County started Little Rock Police Department.
Okay.
Started as a cadet and worked my way up to assistant chief. Was assistant chief for 10 years and retired, and then was elected in 2018 as Pulaski County Sheriff and took office in 2019.
Born and raised in Arkansas?
Born in Louisiana, raised here in Little Rock.
Well, I sure hate that for you. You're in the right place now.
Right.
Yeah. By the way, I'm J.C. Loves from JoyNet Radio, and we've known each other a little while, and have done some dealings in the past. Let me ask you this, because I'm 115 years old. So back in my day, there was a phrase that was used called rehabilitation as it related to law enforcement. It changed, and I know a lot of that was political, but it changed to incarceration or correction, because now they're known as Department of Corrections. Talk to me about your philosophy there between the rehabilitation and corrections, or incarceration, rehabilitation and incarceration. Talk to me about that.
I think people have to be held accountable for their actions, but the criminal justice system, incarceration, it needs to have a purpose, and I think it should be to assist in rehabilitation. And I believe that if we're going to do this, it's great we can do it at a state level. Yeah. But I think we need to do it at a county level. Try to assist those entering the criminal justice system, those who are being arrested, to try to redirect them, give them some tools they need to not continue in the path that they're going. A lot of times people get involved in criminal activity. Yeah. I'll say. Because of other reasons. It may be drug addiction, there may be mental health issues, or there may be other issues in the environment that they've been dealing with. And so I think we have to look at the core issue. Crime is not some obscure object that floats around in the sky. Individual commits a crime, individual choose not to commit a crime. So if we're going to address crime in our community and reduce crime in our community, we have to look at the individuals that are committing the crime and seeing what we can do to redirect them, to assist them.
Okay. You got any plans for possibly increasing some rehab activities or things that the inmates can possibly focus on?
Yeah, so in 2019, we started a reentry program in our facility. Okay. And we started with women first. It started a pilot program. We partnered with the Exodus Project, which I had volunteered with them for about 4 years. And now we have what we call the CSI reentry, and that's community-focused, safety-driven, integrity-based. And currently we have around, around 80 men in the program, and around 30 women in our program right now. And it's a 12-week what we call the academy class, where we're assisting them into refocusing and making some concrete decisions, dealing with some addiction if they have addiction issues, dealing with that. We talk about financial literacy, we talk about anger management, a lot of different issues that we have volunteers that come in and teach classes. Like I say, it's a 12-week program, it's 4 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Okay. Let me get into the crust, because you have an excellent youth, you're targeting youth in the community. And that would be prior to getting into the system. You have some ideas there. So let's get into that. But let me ask you this question: are we seeing a skew in are more young people getting into the system now because of arrests? What's that number looking like?
I'll tell you this. What's a little disturbing right now is that you have a lot of young people being charged with more serious crimes, being charged as adults. But I think you're gonna, you always have a 12-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And we have to continue our investment in our youth. And I think that's important, that we have youth programs, mentoring programs, and I think it's important that law enforcement has a role in that, that we're having our programs engaging the kids. And you can't stop that. Because we always have to, what we try to do is help the kids see the opportunities that are before them, and help them to deal with some of the issues that they may be facing, whether it's in school or at home.
And some of the specific things you have targeted for youth.
So what we've done, the Sheriff's Department had a program called the Junior Deputy Program.
Okay.
Years ago, Sheriff Gully started that. I think it was like 1949, something like that.
1949.
49.
Wow.
And Charles Bussey, who was Charles Bussey Jr., who was the first African American deputy at the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office, was a member of that program. He was one of the deputies leading that mentoring program. And over the years, that program birthed the ball field on Lower Cantrell that we have here in Little Rock, because Mr. Gully, Sheriff Gully, was a baseball player, was a minor league baseball player. So he knew, connecting sports with kids would be helpful. Now, the ball field is a separate organization, right? They're separate 501c3, and they do a great job having baseball leagues there. The Sheriff's Office stopped involvement with that organization and stopped the mentoring part of it several years ago. So one of the things I wanted to do when I came in the office, because I know the importance of investing in our kids, was to embrace the past of the Sheriff's Office and relaunch the Junior Deputy Program. So under our Junior Deputy Mentoring Program, we have the OK program, which is a mentoring program for African American boys, led by an African American deputy. Of course, that program came out of Rancho, California. Deputy there started the program, and we have created a chapter here in Little Rock. At Pulaski County Sheriff's Office. Also, we have a couple of school resource officers that have embraced our idea of mentoring kids. We have Ladies of the Future at a high school that is working with the girls in the school, Mills High. And then we're at an elementary school, and we have a program called Build, and it's with the boys there. It's Boys United in Leadership Development.
Okay.
So we have those programs engaged. We will have the summer. We will have a youth camp where we bring kids to the sheriff's office and kind of give them an idea about the sheriff's department, the things we do, and just introduce them to the things we do at the sheriff's department. Also, just trying to give them a fun time to engage during the summer.
So when you talk about protecting Pulaski County, you're not just talking about locking people up.
No,
it sounds like a whole
right.
A bigger picture.
Right. You have to have a holistic approach. As a sheriff's department, we're going to make arrests. We're going to try to get some dangerous people off the street, and that's part of what we do. But our role is to prevent crime. And if we're going to prevent crime, not just make arrests from people who commit crime, but prevent crime, we have to engage with our youth. We have to try to assist them in seeing their future and the opportunities that they have before them, understand how they interact with law enforcement. Then we also have to work with people who are in the system, who are coming out into our community, and try to redirect them, give them the resources that they need. Now, as Sheriff's Department, we can't do it alone.
Right.
So we have to have partners in our community, and that's what we work on building partnerships in the community so that we can create a safer environment moving forward.
I can hear the political pundits charging at the resources necessary to keep these kind of programs going, and saying that maybe we need to shift those resources into body armor and that kind of thing. How would you address that?
My response to that is that it costs around $67 a day to house somebody in the Pulaski County Detention Center. We can spend all our money housing people and building more jails, or we can invest in people, and that's what we're talking about doing. Look, if there's a homicide, no one questions how many detectives we sent out to solve the crime, because if someone is killed, their loved one wants us to find the person responsible. And nobody questions the amount of money we spend on overtime or the number of people out there involved in that investigation and the prosecution and the sentencing. Well, what we're talking about doing is investing so that we don't have the homicides, so that we don't have the robberies, so we can reduce the number of victims in our community. It is well worth the investment, but being financially responsible, I look at the amount of resources we bring in from the Pulaski County government, the taxpayers, how much money comes in there. But I also look at grants. We've gotten over $600,000 in grants for our youth program. We saw it, we applied, and we received. When you get the grants, some grants they have matching funds, things like that.
Okay.
But this is a grant to help pay for the resources to run the program. Now, and it does help for some staff to help with data collection, because that's key for me. Is that it's not just a feel-good program. We want to know we're having results. So we're tracking kids' grades, disciplinaries, even if somebody's arrested or anything like that. We want to track that, compare the impact we're having on those kids compared to the other kids at the school. So we want to be data-driven, making sure that we have a program that impacts these kids' lives, that we're seeing positive results. Also, we established a Pulaski County Sheriff's Prevention and Reentry Foundation. We established a nonprofit to bring money in. Corporations may want to donate, or individuals may want to donate, so that we can help our reentry program and our prevention program, which is our youth program. And so we're looking at, I'm not just looking at how much money can taxpayers pay, through the county government. I'm looking at federal resources, and I'm also looking at, with the nonprofit, other businesses, individuals can also help to support the investment in our youth.
Sounds like not only a holistic approach, but it's robust. It's a lot to keep track of. Where would you say is the area that the sheriff's office needs the most help, attention from taxpayers as well as our city leaders?
I would say what I need more deputies.
Yeah.
More personnel to invest. What we would love to do is have a deputy at all our elementary schools in Pulaski County and our middle schools and high schools. I say our middle schools. Normally you think of school resource officer, you think of them at the high school, middle school level. Yeah. But we got to start with our youth, and we're seeing the impact that we can have by having a deputy at the elementary level, because it's not about. Some people think of a school resource officer as just an officer or deputy on campus. Right. It's more than that. We want to mentor the kids. We want to help the kids deal with conflict resolution. We teach classes, and that's the expectation, that we're following the kids, checking their grades, ensuring their behavior on campus as well, interacting with the parents. So I think it's important, if we're going to have a long-term impact in our community, we have to invest in the youth in our community, and you don't stop when crime is down. A lot of communities, a lot of government agencies, city governments and county, when they see crime go down, one of the first things they want to do is reduce the investment. Yeah. And you can't do that. You have to continue to invest in our kids, because, like I said earlier, you're always going to have a 12-year-old kid. We can have a great program today, and see the success of all the kids involved. Well, 5 years from now, you still need to have that program because you have another 12-year-old kid growing up. And so we have to continue that investment in our youth. It's nonstop, and it's worth every dime we spend. Like I said, we have to look at the results. Mm-hmm. It's not just a feel-good program, not just a pat on the back that we are mentoring kids.
Right.
It's what are the results? What's our graduation rate? Mm-hmm. Are we seeing grades improve? Are we seeing disciplinaries go down on the campus? Is the campus becoming more safe? So we have to look at those things. Mm-hmm. And make adjustments along the way.
Mm-hmm. I'm wondering. So there may be the question of what age first. What when you say youth, are you talking? What age are you talking
about?
So
we're talking elementary school through high school.
Right.
We've also part of the grant pays for us to have a cadet, 2 cadets at the sheriff's office. I mentioned I started as a cadet with Little Rock Police Department, a young 19-year-old kid. And that's how I was introduced into law enforcement and ended up spending over 35 years in a career here. And so this grant allows us to hire 2 youth, 18 years old, to come into the sheriff's office and learn the inside of the sheriff's office and also help out. And hopefully they'll want to have a career in law enforcement, because we need people to be a part of the organization. A lot of times people look at law enforcement and they say a lot of things need to change. There needs to be a focus on the community, and I totally agree with that. And you've got to have the outside pressure from the community to ensure your local, whether it's your sheriff's department or your local police agency, is responding to the needs of the community. So you have to have the outside pressure. But long-term change in law enforcement requires change from within. And so we need new people coming in to the profession that understands the relationship in the community, understands that we're part of the community, we're empowered by the community, and so we have to be focused on the community. Understands that we have to be safety-driven, not arrest-driven. We'll make arrests, but if that's all we're trying to do, then that's all we're going to do. We're never going to build stronger relationships in the community. We're not going to look at what are the issues that create an unsafe environment. How can we partner with organizations to meet the needs in the community? And then we're not going to be integrity-based, doing what's right at all times. So to have that, we have to have people coming into the organization, and that's part of the mentoring program. While we're not expecting everyone we mentor to be a part of a law enforcement agency, we want to introduce them to that. We want people to not turn their nose up when you speak of law enforcement and the idea of having a career in that profession.
2 questions come to mind related to the youth. One is if you're talking about high school, I can hear some people argue that it may be too late at that point to try to deal with those children at that age, because they're at that age. They've learned all the bad habits they're going to learn, and it's going to be hard to bend that sap, another way. The second question is that the role of the sheriff's department to babysit like that? I mean, is that the role of the sheriff's department? Or?
Well, to deal with your first question, people need opportunity. We have to understand sometimes, we may expect that everyone grows up in the same environment that maybe you grew up in, or a positive environment. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes it's a negative situation for a variety of reasons that kids grow up, and they may be skewed in their perception of how they're to interact with others or how they approach society. And so we have to take the opportunity to introduce them to something different. And I think it's worth the investment. Just like if we're going to invest in people who are already in the criminal justice system and come out and be successful, I think it's just as important to invest in our high school kids. The second thing is that the role of the sheriff's department?
Yeah.
Our role is to create a safe community.
Yeah.
And so we have to have a holistic approach. If and that means investing in our kids. If I know that people are running a stop sign and causing accidents, then I don't need to just respond to the accidents. I need to look at that situation. Is there something blocking the stop sign? There's something we can do to let people know there's a stop sign and encourage them to make the stop, even if it means writing tickets. And so if I know, and we know this, that people are growing up, and some people are getting involved in a criminal activity at an early age, and they continue that throughout their life. And so we know that. So we don't want to wait until they're 40 and 60 years old to say, let's do something. We need to do it now. It's about prevention. And that's, I think, people have to understand. Some people may think that the sheriff's department, all you need to do is respond to crime.
Right.
Our responsibility is to create a safer community, and that's prevent crime. And the way to prevent crime is partnering with schools and other organizations to help people to understand the direction, a more positive direction they can go.
I see a picture from you of a community, and you're not just responding to crime. That is refreshing, because again, on my radio show, at my radio station, we often get into these great debates about police not preventing but merely responding. And I see you working and trying to skew things to work toward that. Are you finding that difficult to explain to city leaders and difficult to get them to understand that that's where the answer is? Are you having a trouble there?
Some have a hard time understanding. That the expectation of just responding and making arrests. A lot of people think that's all we're supposed to do. We're not sitting in no disrespect to fire department, because they do an excellent job. But the example I give, we're not sitting in a firehouse waiting for a call.
On fire to call.
We patrol, and it's called preventive patrol. Sir Robert Peel is considered the grandfather of community policing. I think it was 1829, 1828, something like that. He has 9 principles on policing. And one of his principles talks about you don't judge the effectiveness of a law enforcement agency by the number of arrests it makes. You judge the effectiveness of a law enforcement agency by the absence of crime.
Okay.
You see, as long as we expect a police agency, a sheriff's department, to make a lot of arrests, that's what you'll have. But a lot of arrests does not equal a safer community. Because I may have probable cause to make an arrest, but that arrest is not going to make the community safer. So we have discretion. And we have to judge the situation in our community and see what the underlying issues are. How can we make a community safer? How can we build partnerships with organizations, bring resources to the community? Listen, if a kid is stealing or even selling drugs to keep lights on, don't you think we need to address that issue of the economic issues in that community? If we can address that, then the kid doesn't feel forced to commit a crime to keep lights on, to keep food in the home. And so we have to look at that and address that issue. That's the underlying issue. We're in the community. The sheriff's office, our deputies are driving around through the community, and we're seeing things. And so what we're trying to do is bring resources into the community where we see a need. And we know that we have to look at our kids and help our kids see the potential of their future, understand where they're coming from, and then look at resources that we may be able to tap into. Sheriff's Department doesn't have the resources to do all that needs to be done. But there are a lot of organizations out there that have resources. And if we can make the connection to bring those resources to the community where we know the need is, then we can have an impact on crime in our community.
Let me ask, because I grew up in Washington, D.C. I was born and raised there, and when I moved to the South, I kept hearing them say sheriff. The only time I ever heard about a sheriff was on Andy Griffin. Right. So talk to us about, when does the city, well, I guess within the confines of the city police respond, and then when the sheriff responds. So talk Sheriff's Department.
The sheriff is a constitutional position. It's an elected position. The sheriff is the highest ranking law enforcement person in the county. Mm-hmm. So it's highest ranking than your local police chief. Mm-hmm. We have jurisdiction throughout the entire county. That means we have jurisdiction Little Rock, North Little Rock, Sherwood, Jacksonville. We can make the arrest there. Similar to the state police has jurisdiction throughout the whole state. They can make arrests. We're responsible for unincorporated areas. What happens when the municipality decides they want a police agency and they set up a police department, then they take on primary responsibility in that area. We still have jurisdiction and can enforce laws in those areas, but they take on that primary responsibility. Mm-hmm. If there's an incorporated area in the county that does not have a law enforcement agency, Wrightsville is a municipality. It does not have its own police agency, so the sheriff's office provides that police services in that area. We also have the county jail, and we're responsible for detaining people in that facility. Every agency that makes arrests in Pulaski County, Sherwood, Jacksonville, Maumelle, Little Rock, North Little Rock, when they make those arrests, they bring those individuals to the Pulaski County Regional Detention Center, which the sheriff is responsible for, which I'm responsible for.
All right. Protecting Pulaski County is what we're trying to do here, and I'll try to let you see here. Sheriff Eric Higgins making a good argument as to why we need to invest in our youth. Thank you, sir. Any final words you have? And we've got about 2 minutes.
All right. I just want to reiterate that if we're going to address crime in Pulaski County, we have to have a holistic approach. It's not just about arrests. We will make arrests. Mm-hmm. We'll try to get dangerous people off the street. But we have to invest in our youth. We have to have a long-term investment. It does not stop. Mm-hmm. You don't do it for a year and stop. It's a continual investment. And when we invest in our youth, when we work to get dangerous people off the street, and we invest in a reentry program, we do all those things, and we have a good partnerships in our community. We have a holistic approach. We will make our community safer.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Much luck to you.
Well, thank you very much.
We appreciate you, okay?
All right, appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Protecting Pulaski County. I'm J.C. Loves. I've been your host, and we've had the great Eric Higgins here with us. Join us next time on our podcast. Thank you.